Hello everyone, today's video we will be installing the tint film on the rear side of the Toyota Tacoma. Once you get your product, it will come with the tint film as shown here. And also included on the packaging, you will receive a blade, a squeegee, and a microfiber towel to help you with the installation of the film. And with that being said, let's get started with the installation video. Alright everyone, let's get started with the installation. So as mentioned, this is how you will receive the packaging. With this one specifically, it is a sort of difficult installation. So we're going to try to go step by step on how to install it. With this specific tint, we are going to have 4 different pieces to install on your tail light. So let's get started. Beforehand, you will need also a heat gun. And if you don't have a heat gun, you will need a hair dryer or blow dryer, whichever one, just as long as there's heat involved on installation. So before starting with the installation, you'll need to start off with cleaning up the tail light on your vehicle. So we recommend using slip solution to clean any residue or any dirt on the tail light that it might contain. So first start off by cleaning the tail light. With your microfiber towel, just wipe it off. Make sure when you're wiping the tail light, you wipe every corner in case there's any hidden dirt. So once you clean up the tail light, you can start with your installation. For the first part of the installation, we are going to start off with the bottom portion on the front side of the tail light. So once you begin, peel off the bottom portion. Make sure when you peel it off, the backing paper, keep it aligned to how you grabbed it. So with this particular piece, make sure once you grab it, have it aligned. And it's going to go to this bottom portion. To install it, grab your slip solution, apply slip solution on the back of the film as well as on the lens of the tail light. That way when you install the film, it's easy to maneuver around and it doesn't get stuck while you're trying to install. So step 1 in installing the bottom portion of the tail light film, just make sure to align the bottom as close to it as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect because you will require to stretch this film once it's being installed. So as close to the bottom to the line as possible. And like I said, if you do feel like the film is tugging or is stuck on one end, just grab your slip solution, spray it where you felt where it was getting stick to, and it should move more better. So like I said, as close to it as possible, but remember you will need to stretch the film. So right here, as you can see, the film will overlap on this end. As mentioned, it doesn't have to be to the bottom, but as close to it because it is going to be stretched. And also you will have excess material on this end. This excess material is meant for you to tuck around on this side once you're applying heat and squeegeeing everything inside. Stretched, and then you curve it around on the lens when you're heating it up with the heat gun. Alright, so once you have the film positioned to how you would like to work on it, the next step would be to apply slip solution again, just to make sure it's easy to work with. That way when you use the squeegee, you don't accidentally scratch it. And with this type of material, we do recommend to use the squeegee with the microfiber towel and just remove the water that's on the back of the film. Because if you can use it like this, but it may scratch the film because it is dry. So we recommend just in case, to avoid any scratching on the film, just use your microfiber towel on your squeegee and just squeegee out any excessive water that will be in the back of the film. For this portion, we do not cover the lens yet because we want to focus on the front portion of the tail light first. So it's just making sure all the water is removed. If you see that there is still water on the back of the film, we recommend also using tack solution. This tacky solution will help the film adhere better to the tail light. So just lift off the film, apply tack solution, and then with your squeegee and the microfiber towel, just remove any excessive slip solution that was on the back film. So remember, just a quick tip, you have to make sure this portion, because there is a scoop or indent on the tail light itself, you just have to make sure it looks flush, because if it doesn't, you will have water on the back, and then you're gonna have a hard time sticking the film on the tail light. So just make sure it's well adhered. Also, if you are having issues on sticking the film on this portion, we do recommend a heat gun. Just apply a bit of heat, that way the adhesive can activate and stick more better on the film itself, on the tail light. And we don't want to apply too much heat because it might burn the film. So just a little bit is fine. It will help it activate better, the adhesive. So yep, as you can see, it's sticking better. It doesn't have water in the back or any bubbles. This part looks flush. Make sure there's no water bubbles on the back. All right, once you see that this part is good, you can start working on this side. So with this end, like I said, it's the last part of the installation for this part. So for this one, we recommend using tacky solution again, just so the adhesive can stick better to the lens. So you would remove the film just a bit, apply tacky solution on it, and with your squeegee and your towel, just start applying the film around the tint, around the tail light, sorry. And then we do recommend, just so the adhesive can stick better on the film, we recommend you squeegee and hold it in place for a bit. That way you can help the adhesive stick better. With this part, we recommend just going slow, don't rush it, just so the adhesive can stick better. If you see that it does lift, as you can see there, just keep pressing. And also a bit of heat can help too, the adhesive stick better. So it's just squeegee, helping it, squeegee, squeegee. All right, once you help the film stick better on this end, let it heal for a bit, just to make sure if it does come back up, you can work on it after, and it's not as wet as how it is right now. So once you're done with this side, we move on to the bottom side. With this side, like I said, you will probably need to stretch the film just so it lines up to where the tail light ends. So with this one, we just recommend you pull the bottom portion just a bit. And then with the heat gun, just make sure not to burn yourself. With the heat gun, apply a little bit of pressure, not a little bit of heat, not too much. That should be fine. Let it cool off for a bit. And then once you feel it cool off, You stretch the film towards the bottom. While you're stretching, help it stick with your squeegee. And remember, to help it stick better, you could use the tacky solution. Just work your way on the film. And then you do notice that this part is lifting a bit. Like I said, this one, you can use tacky solution again on the back of the film. Just spray on the front too. That way you don't scratch the film. And then just squeegee any excess water that it may have. Apply heat if needed. In this case, just apply it on the tip of the film, just a bit. Let it cool off for a bit. Once it's cool off, stretch it. And then for this part, just continue squeegeeing, making sure that any fingers that you may see, just help it apply, curve it on the tail light. So once this portion is done, just let it heal for a bit. It should be sticking on the corners a bit good. Just as long as you apply heat and the tacky solution, it will stick. If you do see it lifting, just continue squeegeeing. Just to help the adhesive activate, as mentioned, just use heat. Not too much, because we don't want to burn the film. And just squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. You can start with the top portion of the tail light. All right, so moving on to the next part, which is the top portion of the tail light. So before starting, just make sure this part is wet and not dry. So just grab your slip solution, wet it just a bit. That way it's easy to work with. Remove the film from the backing paper. Wet the back portion of the film as well, where the adhesive is at. And then just play around for a bit around the tail light, just so you can get a feel of it, and as well as trying to align each corner to where the tail light is at. So for this part, we just want to make sure that the film overlaps the bottom portion just a bit, not too much. So as long as it overlaps it should be fine. So that should be a good overlap, roughly around there. And then you are going to have extra material here as well. So remember, this part you're going to work with it at the end. We're just going to squeegee it around so it could stay stuck on this side. And then with this part, you just have to make sure, if it does get stuck, just remove the part where it is stuck and apply slip solution again, just so you don't damage the film. So for this part, once you align it here, there are going to be portions where it is going to overlap to the other side. It's not going to be too much, it's just a small portion. So once you have it there, Remember to apply tacky solution on the film. That way it's easier to glide and you don't accidentally scratch the film. Like mentioned before, I recommend just getting your squeegee and your microfiber towel, wrap it around, and start squeegeeing all the excess water that's on the back of the film. So with this portion, just remember, just try to remove as much of the fingers as possible. That way when you install the other side, on the other side of the film on the tail light, there's no fingers and it's easier to just overlap and it won't start lifting. So make sure it just stays flush. If needed, you can use your heat gun to help it activate, as mentioned before, so it will stick better. Now this part you might have a bit difficulty because, like mentioned before, it does have like a curve figure on the tail light. So with this part, we recommend you try two things to help it stick and look flush. Apply tacking solution, that way it sticks better to the tail light, and also using the heat gun afterwards. So right now, just apply the tack solution. Squeegee as much water as possible, that way it sticks better. Once you feel that you removed as much water as you possibly can, then we recommend using the heat gun just so the backing, the adhesive, can start activating and then it'll stick better to the tail light. So with the heat gun, just go with the heat gun around where the curve is at. Heat it up, not too much. And then just little by little, start squeegeeing. Remember, when you're squeegeeing, try to apply a bit of pressure. That way it sticks the film better to the tail light. So again, just a quick pass with the heat gun. And just keep squeegeeing just to make sure the film stays on the tail light itself and it doesn't look wrinkled like how it looked before. And remember, like mentioned before, just make sure there is no fingers on the curve of the tail light. So make sure, go with your finger, feel it, make sure it's flush. If you do happen to feel a finger, just with your squeegee and your microfiber towel, just continue removing any water or any air bubbles that it may have. You can use your heat gun as well. Also, if you do happen to have some excess material on this end, you can use the blade to remove the excess material. That way it sticks better to the tail light. Whereas right now it's just making sure it sticks on the tail light itself, and it doesn't lift. As mentioned before, the film is going to overlap to the other side of the lens when you are applying it on this side. It's just going to overlap a little bit. So as you can see here, it overlaps. That's perfectly fine, because once you install the other portion, it's going to cover it, and then it's going to look all entire with the tint. So before you start, just make sure that this side of the tail light is clean. So apply slip solution. For this portion, we're going to start working on the bottom one first, and then make our way to the top. So just make sure this part is clean. Wipe it just a bit, not too much, since it was already wiped firsthand. And then once it's clean, just wipe, put slip solution again. And when you're removing the film from the backing, make sure you don't rotate or anything. Just as you peel, as it comes off, you install. So wet the tail light. Once you wet the tail light, wet the film as well. That way it doesn't get stuck when you're trying to move it around. And with this one, keep in mind that the Tacoma tail light does have a little curve indent in the middle of the tail light. So just with this one, align it on the bottom portion. Align the film on the bottom, and then align it to the side as well, to the edge of the side. So roughly around there. And if you need to move it around, remember, just apply slip solution. That way you can move it around. And for this part, just make sure add tacking solution to the back. That way it sticks better. And then just start working on this end first. So just remove all the water as possible, as much as you can. Work your way outward. With this one, we recommend applying heat just so this part can stick better too. So just pass the heat gun a bit, because there is some water in there. So we want to remove as much water as possible. That way the film sticks and it doesn't slip off later. Alright, once you're done with this part, you move on to the top part, which is the last part. And make sure, before applying the tint, make sure this portion is wet. That way you can maneuver the film. And then remove the film from the backing paper itself. Wet the film. And then just apply the film on it. With this one specifically, you don't need to tuck in. So with this one, it has to go align to the tail light body line. So just align it as close to it as possible where it matches. The only part you may need to tuck in will be the top portion. This portion should be fine. It aligns. It's just this portion that may need to be tucked in. So this part is good. And then just work your way upward. And then make sure apply tacky solution. And start removing any excess water that's on the back. Oops. If this does happen, just make sure. The reason why that happened is because there was no support or the film is still slippery. So to avoid that, grab your tagging solution, apply both on the lens and on the film. Make sure you put it on the position you want and remove the material or the water that's on the back. And now it's just stay in place, and it'll let you work around. So basically it's just anchoring on one end and then just working your way outward. Remember, you can use heat just so the adhesive can activate and stick better to the film. So just apply a bit of heat. The corner portion of the tint, you just need to work your way around it. So once you have it tacked down here, move to the top portion here and just guide it to where the tip of the other edge of the tail light is, and just squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. Remember, as mentioned, this part will need to be tucked in because there is excess material. So you're just tucking in a bit. And then once that's done, just go over with your squeegee. Make sure there's no water bubbles or any leftover fingers. And if you do see some, just work your way around it. Make sure it stays at here. And remember, like I said, this one, like these films here, these two overlap this side. So as you can see, they're connected and it should look all together connected. Usually I recommend, just so you can help the adhesive stick better, recommend post heating. Just run the heat gun across the film. That way you help it stick better to the tail light. And if you do come across a problem where the material or the tint isn't adhering perfectly, it could be because there is still water or moisture on the back of the film. We recommend using the tagging solution. It helps to remove any excess water that's still in the back. Just lift and spray where you want where you want to squeegee out, and also just helping with heat gun. With this particular vehicle, if you do have a Tacoma, when you feel on the edge of the vehicle, you will feel like sort of like a gap on the tail light, especially on the front part, where once you feel it, there's a gap, and usually water does stay there, so you might come across a problem where it's not sticking. Just make sure that part of the tail light is dry. If not, then you'll have the problem where it starts lifting and you'll have to just continue squeegeeing. All right, everyone. So this installation is a bit difficult, but like I said in the beginning, just take your time, work around all the edges, making sure you apply any heat that you need. Just apply it, help it squeegee little by little, go around piece by piece. If you do come across, like mentioned before, any issues in terms of any wrinkles, just remember with the heat gun or tacky solution, you can remove all the wrinkles. The wrinkles are because there is water in the back, but with the tagging solution you can remove it. But with that being said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below on the comment section or send us a message directly to our website, and we'll for sure help you guys out on how to, and if you guys have any other questions on how to install it. Thank you, and see you next time.